Mhm.
Okay, Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, Salatu Salamu Rasulullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to my very first discussion about Black Stories Matter, because I really came to understand through just insight over the last week how telling stories makes such a difference. That when we hear each other's stories, there's a build-up of compassion and understanding, and I think that's where the solutions to what's happening in the world are going to come from, not from getting angry and upset, but coming from love and compassion for one another. And the Prophet ﷺ said, no Arab is better than a non-Arab, or a non-Arab better than an Arab, and no white is better than black, or black better than white, except in piety and deed. So what matters in this life is how we show up for the sake of Allah, and that's the only thing that matters or makes a difference between us. And so I am so excited to be here with Monica, because man, how we met, I reached out to her in our Prosperous Muslim group because I was going to a conference in San Diego, and I knew she lived in San Diego, and I said, I can't afford the hotel the conference is in. Is there anything cheaper around that area? And she goes, yeah, my house. SubhanAllah, she didn't even know who I was. She just opened her heart, met me at the train station, and from that first hug, that was it, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was it. That was it. I knew that I found like my sister from another brother, my sister from another mother. I mean, just really like, okay, like you belong to me. And we went through so much together. Oh my gosh, Catherine, we went through so much together. You just have no idea. The healing that Catherine facilitates now in such a broad way and trains other people in, she was that for me back then, a guide in emotional resilience before this aspect of her business even opened up. So yes.
Yes, we went through a lot together, subhanAllah. And so for me, it's just so fitting that we start this discussion together, because the first thing I want to say is it really occurred to me when I've been listening to a lot of the Black women speak out, and I have been listening to what they've been saying, that I never asked that question or never thought to learn how different it feels to be a Black person in a white world. And I mean, it really isn't a white world, because if we look at the world demographic, the whites are the minority, but unfortunately, in terms of domination of the world, there's a white kind of domination and a white theme. And I personally have been very aware of that and working on that in myself for a long time. But then I realized I've never asked that question. And so I want to ask that question, and I want to listen, and I want to shut up for a change because I talk too much and listen.
No, you don't talk too much. You just have so much love to give, honey. Come on.
But there comes a time, though, that if we as white people want to be part of the solution, we have to shut up and listen. Because one of the things about white thinking is we think we know best, we think we know all the answers, and we don't listen to anyone else. And so my very first question to you is, from your perspective, how is it different being a Black person in a white country? Like, what have you experienced? Like, even share what you want to share of what you've experienced of discrimination or just injustice.
Right. Okay. So you have an international audience. So just to make it very clear for everyone, I'm an American. I am the descendants of those who were enslaved here from Africa, as well as the native people, as well as those from Europe. So I am America. I am also a convert, revert, whichever way you say that, into Islam. So when we talk about being a Black person in a white system, let's just put it that way, because it's not really a white world, like you said, but the thinking and the structures, there are two ways they handle it, to talk about, like two layers. One is, yes, that experience as a person born and living in America, who is America, okay? And then there's the other layer of coming into the Muslim community, because you know, I'll get to that later, but I thought that I was going to have like a Malcolm X experience. I thought that I was going to be embraced in a way that actually I wasn't. And for me, it was just more of the same, more of what there always was. People are the same. So whether they have Dean or not, unfortunately, Dean is supposed to elevate us, and often it doesn't. So, but coming back to Black person in a white world. Okay, so what we learn as Black women, whether communicated to us directly or indirectly, whether through the media, through TV, through societal messages, is that you are the bottom of the social totem pole, that you're at the bottom. And it comes through in so many ways. When you're young, it comes through the attitudes of your peers and their parents, and also what you see on TV and reflected in maybe magazines and things like that. It also can come through messages of your own people, of your own family. So in between Black people, we have colorism. And that is where those who are more melanined have issues with those who are less, and vice versa. It can work both ways. And I had experiences like that. So I think that, what part of that would you like to hear about? I think that that will help me to know.
Okay.
Where would you like to go?
Well, I think that in this video, because of what's happening in the world, I think it's the black and white theme. I understand even within the race, you can have the multicolor kind of theme going on, and all of it is actually oppression, and all of it is actually misunderstanding. So the solution to all of it is the same solution, but I think that let's tackle that, because that's what the world is talking about. And I get what you're saying about the convert thing in the Muslim world, and that's another issue again, which you probably come onto another talk with me about how convert stories matter too, and we can do that one separately. But let's just look at the black and white side of it.
Okay, so one of the ways that it was communicated, one way that it was communicated to me that I was less, came in school. And you would think that the teachers are, and as parents, you believe that the teachers are treating the students fairly and this and that and the other, but that wasn't the case. And I got it on two levels. One, boys were being favored, so I always had an issue with that, and they always had issues with me because I was very vocal about that. But then also, there was one teacher in particular. She was unfortunately, she was in my math school, my 5th grade math teacher, and then she went to middle school and ended up being in my middle school again, and I had her again. So it was awful. But yes, she was very racist. And the way that she would behave is like, say we're doing a project, and perhaps, I don't know, I think I was using a lot of paper to do something or something like that. And she came to me and she's like, you need to save more paper. How did she say it? Something like, what do those people teach you? Don't you know that you need to conserve paper, or something like that? So it was a very alienating statement. And at first I was like, what those people are you talking about? And then I thought about it, I'm like, okay, she must be talking about Black people, because this is, I don't want to call her name out, but yes, she was known to have attitudes like that. But having said that, she was like that. But then I'll also say that when I got to high school, the assistant principal, he made a point to look amongst the student body for students of color that could be supported somehow to get more into the sciences, more into math. And what he found was that I was an excellent student. It's just that I was one level, it's like I was one level beneath in terms of class. I needed another math class in order to be at the level where I would be in all advanced place courses before I graduated. So what he did was he took it upon himself to find whatever waiver he needed to find so that I could literally double up on math that year and still carry a regular load so that I would be positioned to be in advanced placement. And so that, you know, his school could, you know, promote as many of us as possible. And so my story is exactly like that. So we have individuals who, you know, the white kid in the hallway who would walk by and call me nigger, you know, just because when he looked at me and he looked like he was interested in me or something, and I thought that he just looked like a greasy adolescent, which he was, and kind of stubbed him, his answer was, oh, nigga, you know. To those kind of interactions, to teacher interactions. And then on the other side, you have, you know, my best friend growing up was a, what are they, like, they call them La Raza. They're like the mix between the white and the Latino. And she was my best friend. Most of my friends were of completely other cultures. And it's like, I didn't, how can I say? It's like, I had two different, very stark experiences. So I had my friends and we were just like me and you, it doesn't matter. This is not an issue at all. And then there were those who would have problems with me because I do, you know, have, you know, because I am Black. Let me think about it.
So what have you felt, how do you feel that has impacted your life as an adult? Because we know that what we experience as a kid really sets us up for adulthood. How do you feel that that has manifested itself in your adult life?
So I would say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He really blessed me with a balanced experience. And because of that, I came into my adulthood and into the faith community in a space that, like, it's like I took people for who they ever showed themselves to be to me. So if they had an issue with me because I'm Black, then okay, then I guess we're just not going to really associate, I guess, but that's on them. You know, the balanced experience that I had, or I would say relatively balanced, I'll say relatively in person, but if you add the societal messages, then no, that's the thing. So it's like, because of that, I was able to come into my adulthood not necessarily or automatically distrusting white people. And that is not the normal and typical experience. Okay?
Yeah.
Because we are from, remember, think about this. I mean, for everybody watching, I am the daughter of parents who were born in segregated America. You understand? That's just one generation ago. For all these people who say, oh, but that was years ago. No. You're talking, these people, this is the generation of my mother. They're alive, they're breathing. This is living history. This is present history. It's not gone. You know, my grandfather, who's still alive, you know, I mean, oh my goodness, they went through so much. And again, like I said, my parents were born into segregated America, and they were in their teens during the whole civil rights movement and stuff like that. So I got the messages. I talk about the messages from the society about, you know, about what I must be as a Black person. But then let's also get real. There's also the commentary that come from the history of what we've learned as Black people, that you do have to watch out for white people, okay? That the man wants to keep you down, right? There's the experience of my mother. It seemed to always be this way, be in the position of knowing the job, training the new white people who would show up to her workplace, and then they get promoted and be her boss, even though she knows more than all of them put together.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's those stories that we learn as well about how, like, it isn't just what you see on TV. This is reality coming in through our parents. You know, there is I was taught that, you know what, you're Black. You are going to have to operate at, 110, 125, 150% just to even be seen to be doing 70%.
Mm-hmm.
Because our brilliance, while they'll definitely take it and profit off of it and benefit off of it, okay, will not be actually valued. I mean, look at our country now, where it's not until in modern times that we learned that so many of the achievements that we had, even as Americans, being able to go to space, who was the one behind the scenes doing the calculations? Black women, Black mathematical genius doing the calculations when there were no supercomputers like there are today. And it's only now that the recognition of the genius that we've given this society is even being appreciated. So when you look at the society, through whatever messages, in the media, and then that can come from your peers and the teachers, then you've got your parents wanting you to, like, be real. Like, these little white kids may be your friends, okay? But let me make sure you understand the reality of what our real place is and what being at the bottom of the social totem pole really means in our lives today. Mm-hmm. And so with that, and so it's just like for me, there was like this whole jumble of messages. And with that, even with that, my mother, she befriended a woman named Marie. I was maybe about 8 years old. She just latched onto me right away. I became like her goddaughter. She became my godmother. And for all intents and purposes, she was my second mother. And who was Marie? Marie was this 5'2" Scandinavian descended spitfire of a woman who was just pure heart. And she was like my second mother. There were years in my teen years that I actually lived with her and her family instead of with my mom. That's just how it was. And and then when I got older and needed help, and like, she was always there for me. So I had this mix of experiences. The broader society telling me, guess what? You're at the bottom of the totem pole, okay? Friends who, were friendly, but even, okay, I'll tell you one story around that. But even things could come up there that can show you that even though you're friends, you're still at the bottom of the totem pole. Mm-hmm. Then you have the living history, the reality through your parents, those messages coming to you. And then I have my personal experiences of my heart, where my second mother in the world is a white woman. And honey, she was the kind of woman that would tell you to your face that she is Black and you can't tell her any different. That's the kind of message that she embodied to me, and whoever else cared to listen. So I had all of that going on. And then if you think about, we lived in an area where we had such a mix of cultures, and that all of that set me up to come into my young adulthood, knowing that, yes, the man is actually real. That yes, okay, the man is real, ... and people are awesome at the same time. You just have to take it case by case. You
Yeah.
just have to take it case by case.
That is so beautiful that you've been blessed with that mix experience, because that's what makes us wiser and more compassionate to others, doesn't it? And you're talking about the stories of the women, the Black women behind the scenes. It just emphasized to me why it's so important to have these stories out there, the real stories from your perspective. One of the things, and this could be a fairly challenging question, and I don't care how much you challenge us, but as white people, what do we need to do to be part of the solution?
Well, I think that you actually said a very important thing to just start it off, and that is listen. Just listen. Just listen. Don't, and I think that it's hard for people to listen when they feel guilty. They feel guilty or they feel shame. And it's for something that they themselves as individuals had nothing to do with, So where's the responsibility? What do you do with that? Now, that's fine, because we're kind of in the same position. We're just kind of born into these families and we have nothing to do with it, right? Where things get problematic is when you have the dynamic of the white person who thinks he or she knows everything, and that they should be the one up on the stage speaking about racism because maybe they did studies, maybe they have a degree, maybe they have a position in that community, maybe they have whatever acronyms after their name and they have status, and so people will listen for whatever reason. Let the Black people speak, and don't try to tell them what they should feel, should think, shouldn't. Listen. Just like your experience is real, so is everybody else's. And there is that dynamic of I don't know if we're going to get into you said we're going to do a conversation later, but I'll just say that white sister who thinks she knows everything, that is a very real stereotype in our community. It just is. The white girl who marries the Arab and then she knows everything. So it shows up that way too. But pulling back from the community, listening is very important, not trying to dominate, not trying to tell people what they should, like you don't want to disregard someone in like what they know to be reality, what they know that they experience, and in their expression of it. They might not choose the word that you choose. They might not say it in the way that you would. They might not have as calm and emotionalism as you might have, as you're talking about it, okay? But you need to let people express themselves and be, and that's the whole thing when we have these conversations, for everyone to feel free to be who they are and not feel afraid to say what the real deal is, for fear that somebody is yet again going to tell them, in whether verbally or non-verbally, to shush it up, and that what they experience was, is something that we can discount, or that it just doesn't mean anything. It's really, we just need to meet each other in each other's heart, be willing to do that. And that theme right there, meeting in the heart, is something that we just struggle with as humans. We really do. whether it's the person who is struggling with mental illness and who wants to turn to family or the sister or brother or whoever to talk about it. And, you know, and it's the whole, just go play, go pray, you know, or you're, you know what, you must be practicing kufr, or you need to just be more patient, or, you know, whatever the stories are. And this is common across communities. I'm not just talking about Muslim community. This is just like human thing. We have to learn how to meet each other in the heart. And to do that, we have to see each other on the same level. We are here, just like the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, like there's no one is better than the other. If there's any better, it is in terms of taqwa. And even then, that's something that only Allah sees.
Yeah.
You know?
And even we don't know if our deeds are accepted or not. So how can we judge each other's good deeds too? Because it's all based on intention, and we don't know the intention behind the deeds. And so really it's about judgment falling away, isn't it? About egos falling away, and about showing up and just seeing each other as human beings. Yeah,
you know, I posted on my, I don't know if you saw it on my page, personal page the other day. There's a post of a young Black girl. She's holding this huge sign, and it says, okay, we said Black Lives Matter. We did not say only Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
We know that all lives matter, but we need your help right now because Black lives are not safe. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like people hear Black Lives Matter and take it as an audit, like they add a significance to it. They add a whole nuance to it that's not even theirs because they feel threatened by that. And oh, well, no, all lives matter. Well, duh. But all lives are not at stake here. All lives are not at the bottom of the social, you know, totem pole. It's a certain subset of people who are there and that are asking for your help and need to come together to be loved as a collective. That's what that's about. You know, not some kind of affront against you or taking value away from you, or no. And so if you're listening, that means that your heart is open and your wall is down. And whatever the other person is saying, you are not taking it as some kind of indictment against you and some criticism against you. You know, you are not, it's like you have to, it's like we need to understand where we end and where Allah begins. We really do. I think that we just have a problem with that as humans.
Yeah. Well, we're all have our weaknesses, and we're all going to stuff up. And I think what's happening now is something that has to happen because voices have to be heard. And I think through the process, inshallah, there is change, but we're going to get it wrong at times, and it's going to be messy at times, and because everybody is bumbling through something new and trying to undo damage of years and years and decades and centuries of colonization and all sorts of things that, you know, have oppressed people. And, you know, in my work, I see the evidence of it all the time. And I am very aware that I grew up with white thinking. I inherited that. I didn't want to be like that. And, you know, where I started to recognize it was at the age of 17 when I was an exchange student in Thailand, and I was the minority. In fact, I was one white person in a whole town of Thai people. And started to understand what it feels like to be the one that's, you know, the minority. But then coming back to my country, because I loved the people there and they loved me back, coming back to my country, seeing the blatant racism. So that opened my eyes. I had that experience and that started my journey. And, you know, I've just become more and more and more aware of it. The more friendships I've had, you know, becoming a Muslim, of course, I suddenly had lots of friends from lots of different backgrounds. And, you know, I know from a white people's perspective, we don't mean to be derogatory or condescending or patronizing, but we are. We just are, right? And, and it's not that we don't even realize we're doing it until you start having this understanding. I think becoming a convert, you know how you were saying bottom of the rung, you know, when you become a convert, you tend to lose your white privilege because you don't belong in your white society anymore. But you also don't belong in the Muslim community either. And so you're kind of like this minority group, and you've gone from being this like, I can have everything, to suddenly like, huh, nothing works anymore. Like, you know, when I was Catherine Jones without the hijab, I could walk in and get anything I wanted. Catherine Jones with the hijab, different story. So I got to experience it, and I'm so grateful for that, because it's been an opportunity to evolve. And even what's happened now has let me see in myself weaknesses and where I haven't seen things that I needed to see. So I'm going to ask you a very vulnerable question, and I want a very, very honest answer.
You got it.
Have you ever felt me running my white oppression on you?
Running your white oppression on me? No, actually, I haven't.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. I have never, ever felt that from you, ever.
If you had, I would have loved, yeah, because I don't want to do that, but I'm aware that I could have without realizing.
No, I've never had that experience with you. I just have not had experience with you. You know, so it's like, I think I would also want to put there for you to just a caution not to conflate your power and your, how can I say, like your enthusiasm to connect with that kind of patronizing or whatever behavior, or, you know, white behavior. Like, don't conflate the two. Because I can easily see, like, okay, being sensitive to what, you know, what you were born into, what you inherited, what you had before you even saw it. I can easily see you possibly being in a place where you think, okay, if you're in a situation and you become aware that you're the one who's doing the talking, and you know you're talking to a lot of brown faces, and you might think, oh my God, you know, am I in any way, shape, or form coming off like that? And I want you to know that there is a difference between having a condescending, know-it-all, you know, I'm right type of way, versus being an educator and being enthusiastic and heartfelt about it. Those are two different places. And I just want to make sure that you, okay, so my love to you, don't conflate the two. Okay. Yeah.
But it's always good to ask, because I want to know if I am running that, because I don't want to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it. You call me out, girl. All right. That's it.
Okay. Yes, of course. And you know what the thing is, I mean, personally, I don't think that you would have been able to grow just the multinational community that you have if you had, I mean, granted, I know that some people still in the residue of their colonial mindsets may pay more attention to you because you're, you know, white sister or whatever. However, putting that aside, I don't, like, your way is such that it is a healing and supportive presence that wants to empower. And that comes through very clearly, versus the kind of stance that is very condescending and has a whole nother drama with it. And you're not coming from that space. And I don't think you would have been able to grow as you have and connect as you have if you had come from that other place, you know?
Alhamdulillah. So it is possible for us to undo our the thinking that we've grown up with and be part of the solution, because that's what I want to be, is part of the solution. And for me, it's not any specific oppression, it's just all oppression. I just want to banish oppression. because of
Yes.
my own experience. And this is one of the oppressions out there, and it's the one we're speaking about now. And so I want us to focus on that one. So,
Yeah.
so that's what we can do on an individual basis, is we can just listen, because I think it's through that listening, and it's through years of being with people that aren't white and listening to their stories that has had me seeing just how beautiful it is to have so many lovely connections with lovely people. And I feel sad for the people who are running racism, because they're just missing out on so many beautiful people to connect with, really. So that's what we can do on an individual basis, is work on ourselves. But what as a collective can we do as white people? Because I don't think we do that very well.
Well, see, here's the thing. I think that you are actually modeling what everyone who's watching can actually do. And that is to connect to the people of color, especially those of us who are in America and dealing with this up front. And actually check in on us and just be there for us as we're going through our trauma. I think you have to, it's like, I don't know how many people watched the video, but of the cell phone video that, thank God, was made, because honestly, if that didn't hit YouTube, we would not, George Floyd would have been just another name on a list somewhere. And because it was captured, this white police officers, I mean, just like literally just kill this man on the street in broad daylight, no kind of, just really no, just freely to do that, just to do it freely like that, as if there's nothing wrong with it. That, and even just knowing of it, it's a trauma. What does that communicate to us? What that communicates to me is that my husband, although, oh, hold on a second. Where are you? There you go. That my husband, who works at with the police department, okay, even though he is literally part of the force that keeps us safe, even though he is an ex-Marine who has literally put his life on the line for so many things, that he could go to work and have some kind of incident with someone who thinks that they have the right, that automatically he's guilty because he's Black, that automatically, and decide to take out a shotgun and shoot him just because they can. That's what has literally happened here,
Yeah.
That's the very reality. Or when my eldest son, who's now 20, when he goes to work, there is a thought, okay, and I tell him, look, you be safe out there, you be careful, and I run through the list, just because this is the reality. He's a good boy, and yet he's a Black boy out there, And I mean, honestly, Black women are not immune. We've been killed too, people. We have. This scarf is not going to protect Jack. I'm still Black. So when I leave this house, okay, to run my errand, tomorrow, I'm a school teacher, by the way, guys. I teach public school. Tomorrow I go onto campus because we have to clear out the classrooms. The school year is almost over. I'm thinking about, okay, I'm hoping that it goes up. Like, I have these thoughts like that because it's real. It's real. We live in a country where Black people have been killed literally just sitting in their homes because the police went into the wrong department, or they misidentified a person and went into the wrong house, and literally just shoot through the window, bust through the door, do all kinds of things. This is what we are living in. This is what we're living in. We're not safe. And what we have to actually experience is a trauma.
Yeah. And as a white person, we don't have to think about that. We just walk out our door and go about our business, and that's the difference, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
We don't have that thought on our mind. I mean, as a Muslim, when there's all sorts of Islamophobia going on, yes, as a Muslim, we have those concerns and we think about those things too, because of the, you know, the fact that we've been targeted as Muslims. But if we just keep back onto the black and white theme, as a white person, we don't think before we walk out our door whether we'd walk back in our door. We just figure we will.
Exactly.
And that's the difference, isn't it? Everyone should be able to walk out their door and feel safe. Well, and what you're saying is they're not even walking out their door. They're not even safe in their home. And that's even worse.
Exactly. Someone could see me in the neighborhood. I mean, fortunately, I live in a nice area, and this county outside of Washington, D.C. is majority Black. So I'm happy to say, but that still doesn't make a difference. You know, someone could decide in the neighborhood that because we're relatively new to, we bought our house not too long ago. So someone in the neighborhood could decide that there's some strange person going up to this house and decide to call the cops. I mean, we've had Black folks called on just things even less than that. And they decide to come, you know, to this location, and there'll be some kind of altercation. That could actually happen, but I'm the homeowner here. This is my land and my house, you know? And yet we live in a time when we know that doesn't keep you safe. It really doesn't. It really doesn't. So yeah, it's a time for being more careful about yourself, keeping your babies close to you, even more prayers than which you've always been making, and praying that, you know, you don't get a call from somebody, you know, from your sister, from your dad, from your whoever, that somebody got shot, somebody got killed, somebody got whatever. You never want that over some foolishness.
Yeah.
You know. And
well, sometimes it's not even foolishness. Sometimes it's just somebody is completely innocent and they're just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, exactly. And when I say foolishness, I'm talking about foolishness, or I could say brutality, or could I say whatever, of the person perpetrating that, just due to their perspective. Yeah. So what I would recommend to all of you out there who do have friends who are Black, especially if they're in the US, but not only, but, you know, given everything that's going on, this is like the epicenter, to check on your friends. You love them, check on your friend. You know, maybe all you can do is just be an ear. You cannot, you know, this is not something that you can dua away, you know. This is not something that you just say, okay, sis, just pray more. Just, okay, this is a good dua. And if you say this one 30 times before you go to sleep at night, then Allah will, you know, and that's not to say none of that is true, but what I'm saying is just really just be there for that person. It's like, for anyone who knows about, and you would, Catherine, trauma-informed care, okay? That's what needs to be practiced right now with your friends. Just be there for them.
Listen.
Yeah, just listen and be there for them. It's almost like trauma-informed care. Another thing that people might be able to relate to is if you're supporting someone who's grieving. You know how when you support someone who's grieving, the best thing is just being there for them.
Yeah. Because
the platitudes and the nice words, and that's great, you say these things, but really they're dealing with an emotional reality that they have to go through. There's no way to run away from what they're in. And your role is simply to be there for them.
Yeah.
and let them know that they're supported. And whatever it is that they want to say, listen, just listen. And there's a difference between hearing and listening.
And I think the other thing to just make it clear what we're talking about with listening means just sitting there knowing there's nothing to do. You're not there to give advice. You're not there to direct the conversation. You're there to just listen.
You're there to receive, okay?
Yeah.
And if we were to think about things energetically, people like to think in masculine and feminine, okay? It really is like embodying the feminine, okay? It is the receiving. That's what you're doing. You're in that space. You are receiving, you know, allowing whatever that person, just holding them, like being the space in which whatever is moving through them at that time, they can do that, knowing that they're safe, knowing that there's someone there for them, until they come to a moment where they understand that, okay, at least they've come back to, I'm okay. Now they may read that again, okay, but but your job is to be that space for them so that they can come to that.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that's what
they just need that love and compassion to get there.
Yeah. Just be there for them. You know how, as a woman, so you go to your husband and you're just, you just want to share, something's on your mind, this and that and the other. And our dear husbands or brothers or cousins, whatever, that you're speaking to, because by nature, they're fixers and doers. Okay. How do they show their love? Okay. They show their love and their care by just coming back with, well, you should do this and going through this whole analysis and evaluation and steps and things that you should do, ought to do, should have done, could have done, all this whole thing. Meanwhile, they think they're loving you. Okay. That's how they know to show it. But meanwhile, you're actually not being loved, because what you need then is just to be heard, just to be witnessed, just to be accepted, just to be in that space. Okay. So if, to give that visual, we're not looking for husband, you should do action, people. What we're looking for is the feminine. We're looking for the receiving. We're looking for the compassion. We're looking for you to be a space so people can come to that space where they know at least they can come back, no matter how long or short it lasts, that they're okay for now, and, until the next wave comes. So, yeah.
We're going to have to wrap it up. Is there one last thing you'd like to say to the audience? Is there something that you would just like to say about this? Anything?
Anything. Okay.
That's like asking you, that's like me, that's like saying, choose whatever you want from for dinner without any clues, isn't it? Just putting it out there like that. But I just want to just say, whatever you think we need to hear.
Okay. So what you need to hear is that the past 2 weeks it's been absolutely traumatic. And this is something that we're all feeling. It's like, if you're a kind of person who never believed in collective consciousness, trust me, now you would believe it. What is happening has taken so much out of people. Everyone that I talk to, they say that they've barely been able to concentrate so that they can even focus on their jobs. Their productivity has dropped. They have gotten to the point where they've withdrawn and secluded themselves, maybe even completely fasting from social media or whatever for a time, or just because they can't take it anymore. Like they have to, it's like, it's too much. There's like a collective stress, a collective pain, there's collective tears. And it's something that you can actually feel. For each of us, it comes differently, but I'll tell you, for myself, I was where I knew that I was really where I really needed to step up my self-care game was I was just sitting like I am right now at the laptop. And I was a competitive rower in university. Okay. So the experience of being on the boat and bobbing, with the current, my body knows this. I was sitting still, and yet it's like my system, I was bobbing. It was really disorienting because I'm still, but I'm not. And I was on, and I was just thinking, what is this? And I literally felt like I was on an ocean, and it was an ocean of grief. I started to cry. This is like what sparked off with George Floyd. It just opened up this collective grieving. And for those who are more the metaphysical type in our community, Black community, those of us who live in the States on the Eastern seaboard, we have a hurricane season, and it literally follows the current from Africa that the slave ships used to take. And like for us, like it's like their souls, the dead, the grieving, the pain, the trauma, all of the collective wrong and injustice. We get that every year. And it's like open that awareness back up again, but from a completely different way. And it's something that has touched everybody, not just us now, on the collective, where everybody's in the streets. Okay, every state in our union, there is some protest, some places rioting, but protests going on. And it's not just us melanin people in the streets saying, hey, this is wrong. This is everybody now, because we understand that what has happened, it's not who we are as humanity. It's not who we are. We are not going to stand for that, And so like, this is just it is a traumatic time. Please, please, please connect with those that you love who are here, and just actually be a receiving space for them. That's it.
And as you were talking, I think for those because obviously a lot of my following is a Muslim following, for those who want to, I guess, do their best to understand how you feel, if we go back to how we all felt after the massacre in Christchurch, that's the place, isn't it, where it was for the Muslims, we felt that, right? So what you're feeling now is a similar thing. I'm just trying to get them to connect to something because I want people to really hear what you're saying. And what happened in that moment too was really beautiful, because what I saw in Australia was the Australian public came out to support us, and it was the breaking down. It was the beginning of people really seeing that Islamophobia is real, and that as well. And so I hope, inshallah, that what's happened in these 2 weeks is the beginning of a similar kind of dialogue opening up, that there's more of these conversations like we've had today. And I really thank you for sharing and helping me understand better. And you've popped away again.
yeah, because my little 10%. I'm like, okay.
Okay, we're wrapping up now. Before it disappears. So yeah, whoever's been listening, I hope you've heard what Monica has said, and whatever amount, I love the way you call it, people of melatonin. What is it?
Melanin.
Melanin. I was going to say melatonin. I go, no, it's not melatonin.
No.
Melanin. Yeah, it's like, when you put it like that, it makes it really ridiculous, because actually the only difference between you and me is the amount of melanin in our body. And so, in fact, that makes us lacking because we're lacking the melanin, you know?
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
flip this around, shall we?
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. And it just so happened just how it all came to be that it was the less melanin people that gained the economic power in the world and became the dominant. And then everybody else, we have all kinds of complexes, stemming out of that we are still living today.
Yeah.
So,
and the reality of all of that is it's all a story that's made up, because at the end of the day, we are all, well, when it comes to the day of judgment, the amount of melanin we had in our skin is not going to do anything for us whatsoever.
Exactly.
That's the big thing we should remember.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, all that's going to do for you is it may, just because of how people socially interact, details of the moments that are going to come up, and particular themes that, may have come up for you. But yeah, it's not going to make any difference. People, we're all going to die. Okay. We need to remember that every soul shall taste death, and we're all returning to him, each moment. And so while we're here, we really need to learn how to be compassionate with each other. And this was the way of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We have the perfect example in him. And really, this is our time. Every day, each and every last one of us, we say, Assalamu alaikum. People, what that means is you're not just say, oh, peace be unto you. But what you're also saying is that you are a sanctuary for them.
Yes.
And so my question for you, whoever you are, however much melanin you have or do not have, are you a sanctuary for us Black people right now? That's my question.
Good
Are you
question.
a sanctuary as we're going through a trauma?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good question to leave us on. Jazakallah khair, Monica.
Well, yeah. I love you. I love you. And I am so proud of you. And I am just delighted. Girl, we've been through some things, okay? And look at you. You are being part of the solution. Keep having these conversations. And those of you who follow Catherine, follow the lead. Have these conversations. Have your own red table talk in your family, in your neighborhood, in your people, or Zoom talk. Have these conversations. And again, love on us Black people right now. We need you. We need it.
Yeah. And if anyone who's listening wants to sit in Monica's seat and be a part of this and tell their story, you only have to reach out to me and I will open the floor for you to tell your story, because I want to hear it. I really do. Because every time I hear one of your stories, it makes me a better person.
And that's real. That is real.
That is the truth. That is the truth.
That is real. May Allah put barakah in all of these conversations. May Allah elevate you by your effort. I love you so much.
I love you too. You're getting me all teary too. Come on. We've got a dying cat at home. I've been crying all night with the kids over the dying cat. Don't start me up. My eyes are already puffy.
Oh, well, we have to put the drama in there, baby. Okay. So, but it's real. And so thank you for inviting me. And I hope all who have listened today have taken away something. So, yes.
I have. Jazakallah khair.
Oh, yeah. All right, my
yeah, so subhanaka Allahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, every one of you who's listening, no matter what level of melanin you have in your body.
I love it.
I think that's going to be our theme now, isn't it? Different shades of melanin or different levels of melanin. Let's take the skin color out of it. It neutralizes it, doesn't it? It totally neutralizes it. Takes the story out of it. It's beautiful. Yeah. On that note, we have to go because I'm due to actually teach another class 5 minutes ago. Hopefully they're watching the live and so they know why I'm late. Okay. All right.
Assalamu alaikum, my darling.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Love you.